Hey, you know, one of the things I love about making bandsaw boxes is you're really only limited by two things: your imagination and grain direction. And when you bring power carving into the mix, amazing things can happen. You can create all sorts of shapes and textures and really add a lot of personality and visual interest to the piece. But that grain direction, yeah, it still matters. Take this box, for example. On this one, my grain direction is running vertically, so the top of my arch would be really weak without some sort of structural support. So my solution is I add this spline right into the top of here. It adds just enough strength to keep it from breaking, and without that, it probably wouldn't even survive the sanding process. I'm actually in the process of making a full tutorial for this box, and in it I'll be covering everything from installing the spline, to carving the stem, to shaping and finishing the drawer faces. But in the meantime, I just want to share a quick clip of how I add the spline to get that strength at the top. So for the placement of my spline, I'm going to be showing you on a box that I've actually already glued the spline in, and that's actually going to work out a little bit better. So where I want this thing is right in the middle of the box after the back goes on. In this case, it's really simple. I'm using 4 boards that are equal thickness, and so it's going to go right down the seam of my middle 2 boards. That's just where I cut my channel, also known as a dado, and that's where I'm placing my spline. All right, simple. Thanks. So what I've got here is I have my 3/8 router bit chucked up into my router table. I've got my fence set for the right distance from the bit, and I've got my bit set 1/2 inch high. I'm going to do this in 2 passes. I'm not going to try to get the whole 1 inch in one pass. We've got a little push block, and I'm going to be pushing back here because I don't want my hand on this side when we go through. The other thing I've got here is I have a raised fence. And what this is a micro jig kind of thing. I use this for so many different things. I use this as a straight line rip jig for my table saw. I use this to do tapered cuts. I use this thing for so many different things. I kind of call it my magic jig. But you know, this isn't completely necessary. It is nice to have this extra support when I'm making this cut, but it's not completely necessary. So just do the best you can with the tools that you have. All right. Okay, so I have got my channel all cut into here. This is exactly 3/8 of an inch wide, and it's 1 inch deep. And so now I've got a corresponding piece here that I have planed down so that I get a nice, you know, a reasonably snug fit without having to pound it down. And so I've got a really nice fit on there. Of course, it doesn't need to be this long, but whatever, it doesn't make any difference. And then I've also cut this thing at 1 1/8 inch wide. I just want a little bit left over. Maybe that's 1 1/16. I don't remember. It doesn't make any difference. I want it a little bit higher because now I'm just going to spread glue in here, and then I'm going to clamp this thing down, and I'm going to put clamps on here and make sure it's pressed down really tight into the bottom of that channel. And then we're just going to let that dry overnight. Okay. And that's it. It's just a simple spline, but it really makes a huge difference. So if you're into this kind of thing, consider hitting the like and subscribe button. I got a ton more bandsaw projects lined up. And like I mentioned, the full tutorial for this build should be available in the coming weeks. In the meantime, I have a full video tutorial for this little guy right here. It comes with 2 sets of templates, one original and one just for new bandsaw users. And you can find all of that at jmawoodstudio.com. Thanks for watching.